Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
It is. For me, it's going to be better the devil you know, and yet plenty of people plenty of people would argue better the devil you don't know. It's just the identity of those people that worries me. They are not what you would describe as the most impressive and informed of individuals. They seem to be a lot happier making us feel frightened and angry than they are making us feel informed and enlightened. But even that's probably insulting. Brian's in Sunbury. Brian, what would you like to say?
Well, it is insulting, but it's what a lot of people want to hear. They'd rather be scared of something than actually go through all the facts and understand them.
Yes.
And it's the devil I knew that I would prefer to vote for, by the way.
Right.
And I think this is about social democracy. So I just want to get out as fast as possible.
So you agree then that there's nothing David Cameron can announce, there's no deal or negotiation that he could unveil that would change your mind at all?
Absolutely not, because if our laws are decided in Brussels, I would not wish to stay in the European community.
Now, you know what I do at this point, don't you?
No, I've got a load of other quick points here.
No, hang on, because it's...
Feel free to attack that one.
No, I don't want to attack it. I just want you to tell me the laws you're really looking forward to not having to obey.
All sorts of laws.
Yeah.
We waste a fortune on eco-laws.
How does that affect you?
Because it costs billions in taxes wasted.
Well, these are what you might call the opposite of what I thought you were going to give me. This is the fear-mongering. Billions in taxes wasted. What is it?
That's not fear-mongering. That's
okay,
fact.
but when you wake up, the morning after we leave,
yeah.
What is the law you won't have to obey anymore that Brussels has inflicted upon you?
Well, that's not how you should think about it. What you should think about.
But you just said I can't wait for our laws not to be made in Brussels. I'm just looking for the laws that you're looking forward to not having to obey.
We get rid of the Climate Change Act for a start. We get rid of DEFRA's subsidies.
Climate Change Act was passed in the British Parliament.
But of course, yes, okay, but it was in response to directives from Brussels.
It was passed in the British Parliament. It was voted for by British MPs.
Yeah, but they nod it through. They
don't nod it through. They're perfectly free to vote against it, Brian. Just as you're perfectly free to vote for...
You know how it works in Parliament. They vote to the whip.
Well, yes. And they still will after we... They still will after we leave the EU, or do you envision a post-EU Parliament in which there aren't any whips?
No, but at least they're more accountable, and they're not passing... Most of that legislation, you know where the legislation came from. It came from Whitehall. They didn't think it up.
So we're going to jettison Whitehall, are we, when we leave the EU?
No, but we would ask MPs to be more accountable for holding the government to account, which they're not.
Well, what if they're in the government?
Well, sorry, they're not in the government. They're the elected veneer on the government.
Well, right, and this is all going to change if we leave the EU.
No, but it's a better chance of change.
Why?
That was the system
because
before.
You're describing what's rotten about now, and I'm looking for the future, and so far you've suggested that we might not have whips, we might not have Whitehall, and we might have more accountable MPs. I just wonder where you get your confidence from.
We will have more accountability if we are not...
So we'll save billions and we'll have more accountability, but you can't name a single law that you'd wake up the morning after leaving the EU and celebrate the fact that you don't have to obey it anymore.
Climate Change Act.
Yeah, but that's not a law you have to obey, Brian, and it was passed by the British Parliament. But anyway, at least you're honest. There's absolutely no fact that could be presented to you that would change your mind, because facts aren't really your thing, are they?
Is damaged by being part of a lowest common denominator Europe, which is running the interests of 25 different countries.
Yeah. That doesn't even make sense to you, Brian.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Robert's in Gillingham. Robert, what would you like to say?
Hello there. Well...
Are you going to change your view now that we've got an emergency break?
No.
No, carry on.
I'm afraid I'm an outer, and I'm an adamant outer, but... I actually see more logic in issues like Africa, for instance. Currently, our trade with Africa is very, very minimal, and the rest of the world trades with Africa very, very minimally. They rather trade with Europe, America, and wealthier countries that subsidise their farmers. Now, Africa can't afford to, as a continent or individual countries, so therefore we lose out by getting more expensive corn because the cheapest...
This is, Robert, I'm sorry to interject. This is your strongest platform for opposing continuing membership of the European Union?
No, because I will let other people say that. I'm giving you a more...
No, you're personally your strongest argument.
My personal strongest...
So here I am wavering, and you're talking about African corn.
I believe in our island nation. I believe we are bigger out of the European Union because we are proud to be British.
But I'm proud to be British, and we're in the European Union.
So do you...
Are you not proud to be British at the moment?
I'm proud to be British.
But you know you are currently in the European Union.
Yes, I know.
So you're already proud to be British. So it's not something that would be achieved by leaving the European Union.
Well, it would be greatly improved.
Greatly improved.
Have a
not that proud of your English.
But the question on being...
How would you be prouder of being British if we came out of the European... Bearing in mind you might not even be British anymore because Scotland might vote to stay in further down the line.
I'd have a problem there.
Yeah. It's not looking good from where I am. But tell me a bit more about the African corn.
Right.
Why are you laughing? You're laughing at your own arguments.
Well, because...
But they're funny. No, you're right. Carry on.
You criticise. But the corn side of things...
Yeah.
As we know, European Union subsidise their farmers as well as different industries. Therefore, we buy from the cheapest sorts, or all the conglomerate corporations buy from those the cheapest source. However, Africa, because tariffs are then applied to their products, if we are to buy them into this country, if we are outside of the European Union, it means we can start trading with third world countries, not just Africa. There are other continents on this planet that are just as poor.
Yes. No, you've done it. You've got me. I'm converted. I'm definitely going to vote to leave now. I'd never really thought of it this way.
But it's that's the...
No, you don't need to talk anymore. I'm on. I'm completely over. What was it again? We'll be able to... Well, we'll be paying more or less for African corn than we are at the moment.
We'll be paying less.
So Africans will be even poorer?
No, they'll be richer.
Even though we're giving them less?
Because they wouldn't have to compete with subsidised corn that comes from Europe. It's not just corn, it's animals, it's...
Animals?
I know it's just a tiny little issue.
I don't even know if that's how I'd describe it, to be honest, mate.
Well... all I can turn around and say is this is the sort of things that are pushed aside.
You're absolutely right. I do not think African corn has achieved anything remotely resembling a prominent place in the EU debate. But you know what I did? I'm so glad that you've stayed friendly and that you've helped me to stay friendly as well, because it's quite easy for people like me to get very frustrated with people like you and people like you to get very frustrated with people like me. So it's good that we're sort of chuckling together.
I think the way you speak about Nigel Farage is hilarious.
Well, thank you very much. You're very kind. But I still don't really see what it is you think you told me that makes the case for leaving the European Union. So we'll... What
I'm saying is the argument, I'm not going to be talking about the smaller issues, and the smaller issues are the real reason why Europe isn't working for the UK. And to be quite frank, are we going to be better off or worse off? We're going to be the same. There's going to be no real...
Well, no, you're going to be prouder of being British. You forgot that bit. Unless, of course, we end up killing off the Union by voting to leave, and then Scotland post another independence referendum votes to stay in again. I love you, Robert, mate. I think the fact that you could chuckle like that is almost as if you were simultaneously aware of the undiluted gibberish you were talking while finding it as amusing as I did, but you mean it. There you go, that's democracy in action. Dominic's in Marlow. Dominic, what have you got?
Hi, James. Oh, thanks. You sort of somewhat defeated me because I felt compelled to call you after you sort of implied that, or maybe I misheard on the radio, that all people who were for leaving the European Union were xenophobes or racists.
No, on the contrary. I mean, I probably would include members of my own family on people who are persuaded that they should leave, but even they can't give me the calm, what was the phrase used? Calm, level-headed, fact-based reasons.
Well, I'll try and do that.
Good, thank you.
I've only recently, I've been thinking about it for about 18 months, whether obviously with the Prime Minister looking to get a referendum and negotiate a better deal from the European Union, I thought about it long and hard, and I decided only probably in the last 2 or 3 weeks before the Prime Minister's negotiation that on the balance of all the things I wanted to come out of the European Union, and I'll try and give you a rational thing. It's not for me about immigration. I mean, obviously that's a byproduct. I sort of glibly said when I was out campaigning for it recently that it was about freedom. I think it's a bit more about control. Control for me...
So hang on, you only arrived at your decision in the last few weeks and you're already out campaigning about it?
Yeah, no, well,
wow.
I'm actively involved in politics.
Well, for which party?
Conservative.
Okay.
So, but I'm not, I think that the problem you've got, and there are arguments on both sides, and this is what
give me yours. Seriously, we're going to run out of time and people are going to think I've done it on purpose. Come on.
No, not at all. So my thing about it is I look at the European Union. You and I are similar age. I'm 47, so I was
not that similar.
47 when we had a referendum on a trade zone. We haven't got a trade zone. We've got a system where they're trying to convert it into a European superstate, and that's not being xenophobic. I've got a German sister-in-law and an Asian sister-in-law. So I'm not one of the headbangers that goes out there saying it's all things in Europe are bad.
No, but you've used the phrase European superstate, which already will have people who are on the indifferent side of the argument switching their ears off.
Well, okay, you're right. Let's just try and put it into how I...
And you've also done that, some of my best family members are foreign, so I couldn't possibly be xenophobic.
I'm just trying to take away the narrative that people particularly...
Just crack on with your fact-based reasons for believing what you believe.
Fact-based is that, if we're looking at any form of the European trying to get something sorted out, because you've got 26, 27 countries trying to negotiate things don't ever get done. If you were looking at, if there was a coordinated approach, you would get much better coordination with the refugee crisis. That would be dealt with much quicker. Now, for me... If
we weren't together?
Well, yeah, I think that because independent states, you're looking at, you've got the whole part of the European Union falling apart, because you talk about Schengen, and then you've got people dealing with their own internal issues, and I think that they've got to be much more of a balanced approach about what you do. And going back to the question you quite rightly answered me, what is it about? It's about accountability. I'm an elected representative, and I'm accountable. I can get kicked out at any time if I don't deliver. I'm a proper door-knocking representative. I go and talk to these people, and I've got people who couldn't give a monkey about the European Union, and the people who either ways, and I will get pulled up from people who think that you want to stay in the European Union and people who don't. And for me, it's about control, and I'll be specific. It's about you deciding, James, that you don't want me and you can kick me out. You can't do that with the European Union. You can't affect change.
I can't do that with the House of Commons either.
Yes, you can. Of course you can. At any time, I talk to young people all the time, and I say to them about it. You can affect real change at any time that you want to. You just, I got involved in politics when I was 16, and
I'm learning an awful lot about you, but I haven't really learned anything yet. So the difference between an MEP and an MP is that I can vote.
No, but the MEPs don't make the decisions. It's done by the council, and
which is appointed by the MEPs.
Yeah, but we could go on.
That's what democracy looks like.
No, but the specific things for me is that there's so many things that have been made in the country, and don't get me wrong. There's always people.
Go on, give me your favourites. Give me your headlines on all the things that have been made.
Well,
that shouldn't have been.
It could be who.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
The mess up of the how many Poles were how many Eastern Europeans were going to come into the country.
You weren't going to mention immigration.
Well, no, but that's one example. You wanted to give me one example.
But you'd already said you weren't going to mention immigration. So give me an example that fits in the parameters of your own argument.
European Council has, or the European Parliament hasn't been audited. What is it for 18 years? That would never happen.
That's not a law that's been introduced that you don't like.
More about indicative of the organisation.
Oh, mate, come on, it was going really well. I'm not going to mention immigration. Give me one example of why the European Union is bad. Immigration. All right, give me the law that you really resent having to obey. They haven't had their accounts done for 18 years. That's just nonsense, Dom.
I think, you're saying it's all about emotion. But
no, I'm not, mate. I'm just saying that you told me yourself you were going to give me arguments that didn't mention immigration and did address British laws that you don't want to... No, why are you talking...
Examples of what people,
But this is what the whole phoning-'s been about, Dominic. The whole phoning has been about people ringing...
I just heard your point about it.
I won't mention immigration, and all you've got is immigration.
That was one example.
That was your only example.
Well, no, I think it's all about trying to, bring in particular tariffs, bringing in certain issues, and I haven't got examples in front of me because literally...
Because there aren't any, Dominic, which is fine. And on the doorstep, this is the point at which the door closes.